Back on ABC24 this week with my guest, ABC24 reporter Brad Broders, political consultant Susan Adler-Thorpe with Thorpe Communications, and Tanya Weathersby, columnist with the Commercial Appeal. So let's talk about the Election Commission. I know what you're saying at home. Ransom, why are we talking about the Election Commission? Could you pick a more boring topic? Well, it is important, and we're going to explain why. In fact, I'm going to give that responsibility to Susan Adler-Thorpe. Why do we need to care who's on the Election Commission, Susan?
Well, we should care who's on the Election Commission.
Well, I should mention, before to interrupt you if I can, we should mention the reason why that's news is because Brent Taylor, who was on the Election Commission, is going to probably run for state Senate to replace Brian Kelsey. And so now we have this open position. So there was a Republican confab this week. They all got together and they chose Mark Luttrell, the former Shelby County sheriff, former Shelby County mayor, to replace him. All right, now it's all yours.
No, all right. Why should we care about the Shelby County Election Commission? It's one of those bodies that doesn't get all the publicity that the county commission gets and that the city council gets, but it's just as the work they do is just as important, if not more so. There is nothing more sacred to us as Americans than our right to vote. And nothing more important that a public body can do than to protect our right to vote. And that's what the Election Commission does. And the reason I am really pleased to hear that Mark Luttrell is going on the commission is because what we want on that Election Commission are people who hold the public trust. And Mark Luttrell did that for many years as our former sheriff, and then again for another honorable 8 years as our county mayor. He's proven that he can get along with people and he understands the political process. And I have to tell you, of all the politicians I've known that have come and gone in the last, goodness, how many years? 40 years I've been around. Mark Luttrell is one of those in the top 10 who I can trust. And I think we need to be very pleased that he's on there.
And I hate to say it, but this is more important than perhaps it's ever been, with all the darts being thrown at the election process. And can we trust these machines? And can we trust the whole process? Having some trust in the people making these decisions is crucial, Brad.
Yeah, not to mention Shelby County is the most populated county in the entire state of Tennessee. I mean, this is a big deal. I mean, this has so many people in the population in Shelby County. You know, we're the most important county in West Tennessee. So Mark Luttrell does bring a lot of experience, certainly knows his way around the county mechanics of different agencies, works obviously with the Shelby County Commission, who will fund the Election Commission. So even though he had some hiccups with some previous boards in 2018, 2020, Mark Luttrell, as Susan mentioned, is a long-time credible voice in Shelby County to take over this very important role.
So if you've been in this town for any length of time, you know there's been some controversy with the Election Commission, not only it's an insane amount of time sometimes to count the votes, but Tanya, there have been, we know, dead people have voted. Yes, it really has happened in Shelby County and other things too. But now it seems to have taken on a different tone, and people are really concerned about some decisions recently by the Election Commission to reduce by dozens the number of voting precincts, and they're concerned about early voting and access to early voting. Let's start, before I go to you, let's listen to Reverend Earl Fisher, who had some concerns about that on behalf of black pastors and the NAACP earlier this week.
From 2014 to 2018, early voting increased by 123%. And the response to that by the Election Commission is not to provide more sites or more access. It's to provide fewer sites and less access.
So the Election Commission's response, especially on this issue of early voting, Tanya, is, well, the state law says you only need one early voting location, at least for the first week. We only have that as an issue for the first 3 days, so we're actually doing pretty good. And they also cite that it's more difficult to find more locations because early voting in particular is happening during Holy Week this year, and it's going to be more difficult to find churches to have these early voting sites. What say you?
I think this is a situation where they need to look beyond state law simply because of the political atmosphere we're in now. There's a lot of issues now revolving around voter suppression. You know, whether you think it's real or whether, I mean, it is real. You know, voter suppression is not a good look to just have one early voting spot.
That's all the way downtown.
And
basically
it's
on the
downtown.
river. Yeah.
Yeah, it's downtown on the river. Not everybody will be able to get to that one early voting spot. And from what I'm able to tell, apparently one of the reasons is that, this is close to Easter. A lot of the churches are preparing for service and Good Friday. My answer to that would be, why don't you talk to some of the Black churches about, making, opening up a precinct or two. I know that a lot of the voting precincts are in churches. Talk to them, see what you could do about that. I'm not suggesting that you open up all 26, but you need more than one. That's, you need more than one, not just simply because it's going to be inconvenient for people who may want to early vote and they have to try to get downtown to do it, but also just because of the look at this point in time in our history, where we do see an active part on the part of mostly GOP lawmakers to limit how people vote, where they vote, put all kinds of restrictions on voting. I would try I would do something that would transcend that perception if it was me doing it.
Yeah, less than a minute left. Election Commission would say, hey, all good points, but the bottom line is people don't show up.
And that's the problem. And,
They don't vote.
And the administrator, Linda Phillips, spoke to the county commission on Wednesday, the same day where that news conference was going on, and she said Shelby County has 5 times as many hours of early voting combined than Davidson County, which is where Nashville is. She also said there's not a lot of competitive races. The turnout's expected to not be great. Interesting point, though. Mark Billingsley said in response to that, we keep saying this like it's gospel. How do we change that? How do we change turnout? And he encouraged more learning in schools, community centers to really rev up those numbers and not just accept things are going to have low turnout.
Well, Republicans also have decided, at least this go around, to not have any competition for these primaries. So at
The
least
ballots are
in the
small.
Republican neighborhoods, I don't think there's going to be a huge turnout to begin with because there's just not a whole lot of interest in it.
Another point raised, yeah.
I got to end it there, everybody. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here. We appreciate it, and to you at home as well. This is ABC24 This Week, and we'll see you next time.